Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the opening round of Endurance for Amateurs 2023 Season 3 here at the famous Daytona Road Course, presented by Ninja Botanicals and AlienAwards.net. We're bringing multi-class action to you with LMP3 and GT3 fields, with both fields getting split into an A and B group where every position still counts on track. In the booth with me tonight is the league owner of Pony Express, Mark Dillon Jr. Mark, you yourself have had a lot of success at this track in the past with multiple wins, if I remember correctly. What's the key to success at this track in this race?
Oh man, keeping it clean and avoiding the slowdowns in the bus stop. They'll knock you for a good 3-4 seconds through there.
Yeah, the slowdowns is going to be even more important early in this race, as we'll come to see, especially at this track here. The LMP3s and GT3s do not have that much of a pace difference, especially when you get to straight line speed. The LMP3 does not have much of an advantage over those GT3 cars. So if you get a slowdown or a spin early in the race, it is going to be very difficult to work your way back up through that field to reach the rest of the P3s.
Absolutely. I didn't do a lot of testing with other cars, but I did test the top end speed on the LMP3 solo, and I want to say I was only hitting 168. And then I also tested top end speed on the new Porsche 992 solo, and I was hitting 171 in that car. So the GT3s do have a speed advantage when they're solo. I don't know what the draft's going to look like, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, you just touched upon it there. Last season, we didn't see too many people brave the Porsche. It was pretty dangerous. It would snap on you in an instant. In this latest update, other than the LMP3, was also added the brand new Porsche GT3. So it shouldn't be surprising to see a field full of them, and we shouldn't expect to be seeing the same problems that we saw from it last season. But you will see the majority of this field is represented by the Porsche, reminiscent of a couple of seasons ago.
Yeah, new car is usually the top of the class whenever iRacing brings something out. And so, yeah, the Porsche is right back up there at the top spot where people like Terry and Tony Watson love it to be.
Yeah, so far we have a bunch of guys having put in a time. Nicholas Paletti is the current leader for the LMP3 class, and Jeff McDonald is the current leader for the GT3 class. But if you were to see the overall standings, it is all mixed up. The top five, Zach Nuremberger here is the last LMP3 that is ahead of all the GT3s. After that, from these first lap attempts, it's quite mixed behind that in the field.
Yeah, and
you can see here's the overall standings here in times.
We didn't want to make any big changes with the season start upon us, but I do believe after tonight, once we head to Sebring and the rest of the season, we are going to incorporate a mixed grid. Since these cars are so close together, they will not be split by class on the starting grid.
Yeah, should help. We'll see what happens really with that race pace as well, because we may see a different story on how close they are in qualifying pace, and later in the race we may see those LMP3s, pretty much all of them really stretching it. Paul Skip there replaces Nicholas Paletti on the front with Paul Boyle, then replacing him by a good 0.3 there at this track. Kevin Berquist also just unseated Terry Calgary Jr. there for the GT3 class. Berquist was one of our B-class drivers. He finished second in B for the GT3s, and it does not look likely that he's going to be in B-class this season, because that is a extremely strong time, and still about halfway into the session, no one has been able to top it. He's just a 100th ahead of Terry Calgary Jr. there.
Yeah, Kevin Berquist had a great season. Him and Christopher Craig battled all season long for that GT3 B-Class championship. Christopher Craig ended up bringing it home, but Kevin Berquist looking to get off to a strong start this season.
As you see the real irony there, that in the overall times, those are the two drivers next to each other. Christopher Craig is 10th in LMP3, and the driver right behind him in overall times is Kevin Berquist there.
A lot of new names in the field tonight too. I think we got 5 or 6 brand new drivers here to Pony Express Sim Racing, so it should be good.
Yeah, definitely a couple names that are I have not seen before. So it's nice to see a couple returning names I haven't seen in a bit. I haven't seen Willem Alcala. Roger Shank hasn't had the time to race a lot lately. Luckily, we're getting hopefully some full-time efforts from some guys who weren't able to complete a full season last season, like Brad McCombs, who's up there in 5th place in the LMP3s right now. And Paul Skip and Paul Boyle again swap positions. This time, Skip claiming that position by only 5 thousandths. Interesting decision there, deciding to tow to the pit. So maybe abandoning the well, is there? I don't think there's time to do another lap. So that may have been all of the efforts there to get a lap in. Paul Boyle is still on the track. See Christopher Newby down there, all green sectors. Avi Vishvasham, all green sectors as well. I don't think Newby has a time in so far, and Vishvasham trying to improve his position. He's in 18th right now in the GT3 field, moves up to 17th, and Newby puts his time in there. He is 19th place. You see there the pole position for LMP3 at a 1:43.1, and Terry Kiger Jr. now just takes pole position provisionally for GT3 there with a 1:44.4, so only 1.3 seconds between the two, and a lot of that difference is coming in the corners, and this track is not well known for its bountiful corners. It's known for its long straights, and we'll definitely see some strategy play out with that. I do know that the LMP3 had some pretty strong draft effect before today's patch, but supposedly that was reduced.
Nice to see Tyler Langenberg return into action as well. It looks like currently he is sitting outside of the A-class qualification by 1 spot. But due to his multiple championships, he is automatically grandfathered into A. So as they sit right now, it would be the top 10 GT3s just because he's in 10th.
Andrew Neri there for one split second had the fastest time in the field over Paul Skip, and then Nicholas Paletti in the LMP3s just barely gets in a time right ahead of him. So 2/10 gap now for Paletti up front. Terry Kiger Jr. still holds that lead for GT3s with Vahil into the pits, it looks like, and McDonald puts in a lap, was not able to improve his time. This may be the provisional poles we get. Mark Whitley, good time increase there, moves all the way up from 13th to 5th with a purple sector 4 in that lap as well. Qualifying only 2 seconds remaining, so we will be right back with you as we get these classes sorted out and we get our A and B field set. All right, and we are back, and here are our qualifying results for this opening race here at Daytona. Nicholas Paletti takes the first pole for the class and the season here, 2/10 ahead of Andrew Neri. Paul Skip and Paul Boyle following them. Brad McCombs and Don McCloy round out the A class for the LMP3 field. Again, all positions still matter, but they do kind of get scored in their own championships. But for example, if Zach Nurnberger finishes 7th, he gets 7th place points. So the points or the positions do matter. Nurnberger is the first of the B class drivers here in 7th, with Christopher Craig in 8th, Keith Roycroft 9th, Steve Cubay in 10th, Ryan Jeevan in 11th, Daniel Plotis in 12th, Atticus Middleton in 13th, Nick Terrell in 14th, and Adrian Fedorowski coming around in 15th place. Both the last two drivers not putting in a lap time. For our GTD field, pole position, first of the season, certainly not first of his career, Terry Calgary Jr. with 144.4, only 100th ahead of Adrian Garcia Vigil in second place, with Kevin Bergquist up there in third place. Jeff McDonald comes in 4th, Mark Whitley in 5th, Travis Bell 6th, John Kelly 7th, Mike Poole 8th, Tony Watson 9th, and Ken Huber rounds out the top 10, with Ken Huber so far as the top qualifier for the B class. Alex Pelican follows him with Tyler Langenberg, grandfathered into the A class there. That's why he is in the red despite being in 12th place. Roger Schenk 13th. Following them, Aaron Claybaugh, Richard Curry. There we go. William Alcala, Abhi Vishvasham, Dan Real, Christopher Newby, Daniel Barnett. Continuing, the last of the drivers in the GTD field. John Crane, James Kingsbury, and Andrew McMurray. Also, both of those last two drivers not having put in a lap time in this race. So the classes will be separated. So they are going to be separate classes, although in the future most likely will be a mixed grid here. Here's our pole sitter. Oh, they have a fantastic engine. No, any of the onboards we do today are going to sound really cool with those. As the drivers are now rolling out, will be a no passing until after the International Horseshoe, so we'll not be seeing any action until that point in the lap. But the drivers are going to start getting their tires ready. I don't know if we have any drivers who have not taken the grid. There's some positions moving. I think that's just the drivers getting themselves ordered correctly. As we follow them around, waiting for them to get the green flag. It'll be a bit of a wait for it. Large gap between the two fields. Be over 5 seconds. That's the goal, just to try to avoid some intermingling between the classes early on, especially if there's any mistakes or just slight slowdowns for this LMP3 field. And they're about to get the green flag. Green flag waving. Nicholas Paletti leads them down into turn 1. Again, there will be no moves so far. Let's see how it goes. He's going to stay ahead of Angineri by 4/10 or so. He's got a comfortable little gap as everybody continues on in single file there. And after this point here, now drivers can make moves. They can pass. So Paletti can be under threat from Neri behind. However, it does look like Paul Skip is more of a threat to Neri so far early on. And you hear that engine note as he comes down into the West Horseshoe. No moves made so far. A couple positions gained for Nick Terrell back in the field there. Again, did not qualify a time, so it's not surprising. Atticus Middleton must have had something happen early on because he is a sizable amount back from Adrian Fedorowski. Paul Boyle What has happened to him? He has lost 6 positions now. Yeah, that is going to be a tough one to make his way through to try to get up to Adrian. He's going to have to make up that time, but he's got so many cars between him now. A couple moves made back in the GT3 field, but through the top 14, no position changes so far. Terry still leads him here. He's actually got a pretty healthy gap, almost to that 1 second mark already from Vihil behind. This is definitely the Terry Cager Jr. livery that I know well. All these guys in the Porsches had to expedite getting these paints done. Did not have a lot of time to do so, but he is not that far off from the back of that LMP3 field there. Let's see how fast he's able to catch. Obviously a slow first lap there due to having to stick around after the green flag wave to leave a gap, but that's right there. I mean, that's the bulk of the back field for the LMP3s. Oh, Keith Roycroft, something has happened to Keith and John Crane as well. Let's see if we can... Keith Roycroft. Oh, huge. Oh. Yeah, here we can see from Christopher Craig's point of view here. I don't even think he saw that coming. Keith in the pits. Looks like Craig gets going without really much damage to the car, but look at that. He's just mired in the whole GT3 field now. And then also we had an incident happen with John Crane right around the same time. This is coming into turn 1 in the GT3 field. Yeah, yep, absolutely. Let's check this. This happened. This has to do with Christopher Craig here. Christopher Craig is involved in this, I think. Oh, he actually hits the LMP3 of Craig. A lot of early drama there. Don McCloy setting the fastest lap of the field for the LMP3s as Terry puts in fastest lap for the GT3s. And that is some... he's having to deal with the traffic of the class in front of him right now. That was him passing Adrian Fedorowski for position on track right behind Daniel Pelotas now. A little bit of a lockup there going into that corner as well. Yeah, definitely has the capability of doing that. The high speeds certainly play a factor into it. Right now, Paul Boyle trying to make up those spots. He was down 6 at one point, now just down 4, trying to make the move on Nick Terrell in front. And it looks like that draft has done him well. He's going to be quite ahead coming into the bus stop here. I think he's going to have full control of this. Look at the top of that field. As you see here, Zach Nurnberger is in 6th place, and he can see 5th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and 1st all right out the front of his windshield. The top of this LMP3 class cannot... Wow, look at that. Look at that as they're going side by side there. Paul Skip trying to go on the outside. He's in 3rd place and trying to go 3 wide down the start-finish line. Currently, Nicholas Piletti still holds the lead. Andrew Neri's ahead into the braking zone. Neri's going to take that 1st place spot unless he goes wide out there that we can't see. Paul Skip's going to stay in 3rd place and actually gets pressured by Brad McCombs behind. Yeah, Roycroft is obviously had that incident, so he's trying to fight back a lap here. Just as a clarification, the fuel strategy. Both these cars have a 80% fuel tank. We'll have to see really in practice how far the LMP3 goes, although I think the prediction is that a full tank would go about as long as a GT3 full tank does, so they may pit around the same time. Narrowly leading the race right now, but with that draft that we saw, I don't think that any lead is safe as long as you're within a couple seconds, and it looks like Nicholas Paletti's already going to be trying to make the move here. Neri closes him off going into the bus stop, so that'll have to wait maybe into turn one like Neri did to him. Yeah, almost difficult not to, and that's Brad McCombs there getting a little bit aggressive with trying to make the move early down this straight. I don't know if that's really going to pay off. He doesn't have that draft on the outside. He pulls back in. Oh, that came so close. That was close itself. Paul Skip drops to fourth. Brad McCombs trying to make that move for second. Yeah, you can see Brad McCombs all over the wheel on that car. It's not the smoothest of steering. Oh, and I think he touched. I think he just barely nicked the back of Paletti's car in the braking zone there. Big lockup may hurt the tire temps. Oh, and that's what Paul Skip's in and down the inside, and he's trying to take that position back from Brad McCombs. Certainly not just leaving that position to him. And then again, the entire time behind, Don McCloy is looming right behind in that purple LMP3. We also coming into that Travis Bell and Kevin Bergquist battling heading into turn one here. This is Bell in the Taco Bell car, Bergquist in the purple Porsche. But Bell makes a slight mistake, and Bergquist gets that position back. Yeah, Terry also has not his gap that he's pulled away from Vahil behind has slowed down a little bit, but Vahil's got that 3.3 seconds as it stands gap to Jeff McDonald behind. So, I mean, it's early, but this could be shaping up as a two-car race if Vahil continues to leave that gap behind him, and that is Brad McCombs going on the outside, trying to vie for the lead. Again, they're going to be going three wide. I don't even know how Nicholas Paletti fits in there. Paletti technically ahead. They touched, but no chaos so far. And the big touch there. And Paletti loses it and crashes into Paul Skip, crashes back out into Brad McCombs. Engineering's going to drive away free, and that's going to be Don McCloy heading through and Zach Nurnberger. Zach Nurnberger has now taken second place as Paletti's scrambling to try to rejoin that track, hopefully without too big of a penalty. Surely the unfortunate fact of having to cut across that grass is that's going to be a big slowdown for him, and he's going to fall way back. And for just some unnecessary contact there early in the race. Wow, it didn't seem like any of those drivers really had earned enough damage to need to tow, but could have. I guess we don't really know the reaction of these LMP3s if they're that fragile. But yeah, that's Terry Calgary Jr. there, still leading by that 1.5 seconds, and right ahead of that LMP3 of Adrian Fedorowski right now. Ryan Jeeben just passed Paul Skip there quite easily. You have to wonder if there's something wrong. Obviously, Paul Skip, he saw involved in that on the inside of that incident, and that seemed like a pretty easy pass for Jeevan there. Yeah, Paletti in that incident was off track for 18 seconds before he was even able to rejoin, and he's now down in 10th place. Tyler Langenberg is here. He qualified back in 10th place, I believe, and trying to make up spots. He's here up 4, or he qualified 12th, sorry, up 4 already, and has Tony Watson less than a 10th in front of him, trying to get that position for 8th place. 7th place, sorry. imagine that is going to probably ruin their strategy. And that's a spin ahead. That was John Kelly, I believe. Maybe that's a different driver. Mark Whitley, potentially. I think Mark Whitley was on a different lap than these guys. I think, yeah, they were coming up to lap Mark Whitley, so that was what we saw there in this Mercedes, spinning it in front of a couple of those guys there at the back of the A field. That's a long wait. Really surprised that there's not more, honestly. We've had some incidents, but drivers sticking it out, getting these points. So our leader for the GT3s is Terry Carey Jr. Our leader for the LMP3s, though, is Zach Nurnberger in the B class. So Terry maintains that lead, and actually the gap is closing right now to... What is going on? The gap just closed severely between Vahil and Calgary. It's down to half a second. There must have been something with traffic back there. Calgary continues to lose time. Vahil suddenly is making a charge for the lead. Looks like he's going to be safe for at least a couple corners. We can see here, this is the incident that happened. Neri already out of control before even the entry of that. Trying to rejoin, not a good... Oh, and another LMP3 kind of spooked and loses control as Neri trying to find the right time to join the track. And yeah, you can see there, Terry definitely had to check up for that, and that's where he lost all of that advantage going down the straight. Don McCloy is trying to take that first place from Zach Nurnberger here. Again, the positions do matter, but they are in two different classes, at least for now. Of course, at any point in the next couple races, Zach Nurnberger could elevate himself to A-class. So him being in B-class right now is not permanent, but Don McCloy sending it down the inside into the bus stop. He is ahead, at least by a nose, and he's going to take that position. James Kingsbury saying he got a horribly timed work call. He wasn't able to dodge. So actually not related to an incident in the race, just personal obligations coming up. Unfortunately, has to miss the rest of this race. Zach Nurnberger not going to try to make the move. He's just going for the push, maybe a little bit of fuel saving, but if anything else, they're just extending that gap to Nick Terrell behind, who, by the way, is up 11 positions from where he started. Well, it might be 10 here. Ryan Jeevan just made the pass on him, so that is up 10 with Ryan Jeevan up 8. Both drivers doing really well early in this race. Yeah, it's been a little bit more normal for the GT3s here, but I haven't seen any major incidents for the GT3 guys. Obviously, we saw 3 LMP3 guys in a pretty dramatic incident down there into turn 1. Other than I think what was this, Dan Real colliding with one of the LMP3s. It's been pretty normal for these GT3 guys, but they are certainly close. You can see Aaron Claybaugh is at the back. He's got 4 seconds behind him to Roger Schenck, but every guy in front of him up to 4th place is within a second of each other, and Nick Terrell just retook that position back from Ryan Jeevan. Further back in this GT3 field, also we have Avi Vishvasham right behind Mike Poole, who's right behind Daniel Barnett. Daniel Barnett actually just made the move on Andrew McMurray. McMurray hung out to dry on the outside of that corner. He's going to lose another spot to Mike Poole. Oh, McMurray going deep down the inside. I think there may have been a little bit of door banging between those two, but McMurray is able to reclaim that position from Mike Poole down the inside. That was a great move. Let's see if we can catch that again. There's Andrew McMurray going down the inside, was from a pretty far way back, and that was a brave move. definitely be an interesting effect as we see. I mean, obviously, a couple patches ago, the GT3s and Tony Watson just made a move on John Kelly there. Oh, and they just collided right as I switched to it. A collision in turn 1. John Kelly and Tony Watson. Look, John Kelly, I doubt has any damage from that. Let's try to see if we can figure out what caused that. Yeah, coming down into turn 1, Kelly had just grabbed that position from Watson. Watson sends it pretty deep on the outside and actually starts to lose control. I think that was just an accident there as he kind of spun a little bit into Kelly. They were very close to each other, though. Now, that would be a shame as well. They definitely had some gap between the two, so wouldn't be the first time we've seen it happen, unfortunately. Paul Boyle had an incident as well. Let's see what happens to him here. Just never really slowed down. I think even in the hands of some capable drivers, the LMP3 has not been, the LMP2 is still harder to drive, but it hasn't been, it's not a walk in the park kind of easy. Alex Pelican here, right behind Aaron Claybaugh. Pelican new to the series, new to the league, and was just outside of qualifying for the A-Class in this field. Is up one spot, started in 11th, is now in 10th, and trying to make his way to 9th with this pass on the outside. Let's see if Claybaugh is able to do anything to hold him back. It's a little bit of a shade to the inside. Not able to make the move here. Paul Boyle into the pits, probably to repair that damage that we saw with him hitting that wall there in the West Horseshoe. Oh, and Zach Nuremberger also reclaimed the lead for LMP3. Let's see what happens here. Oh, this is in the Horseshoe. Must have been a mistake. Yeah. Lock up and a mistake by Don McCloy. Staying close in this group here. Not really. The only large gap we have in the top 15 is just that gap between McDonald and Vihil for second and third. So that idea of a two-man race has kind of come to be true so far, as there's just barely over a half a second between those two guys. And the Jeff McDonald completely out of touch. You can see there that is Adrian Neri in the LMP3 behind that pair, just probably trying to avoid interfering as much as possible. Yeah, you can see that. That's Andrew Neri there, fifth in our LMP3s, and is behind them for position. Also, Brad McCombs, despite having an early incident and unfortunately sitting back there in 13th for the LMP3 right now, he just put in the fastest lap of the race, obviously between both classes. I guess it may not be that obvious, but fastest lap of the race between both classes, and he's not that far away from Keith Roycroft in front. Engineering just not really sure what he can do here. Obviously, fell back a few positions from where he started. Actually started all the way up in second place. In fifth, still the only A-Class driver ahead of him is Don McCloy, but just trying to figure out where he can get by these really fast GT3 drivers, because there's no apparent spot on this track that should be an easy pass where you have a lot of pace advantage. Vihil falling back a little bit, just a couple tenths from Calgary. Yeah, another pairing of drivers that fought in the B class of their respective categories last year, where one of them, where they're not in the same class anymore. Craig and Berquist not in the same class this season, and Kelly and Neri not in the same class. But Right now, both drivers doing well. Kelly is in 7th place. That's where he started. And despite being down 3, Neri still is in 5th place overall, which is a great. And Brad McCombs there, another purple time of 42.7. That is quite fast. As everyone else is putting in 44s. Yeah, it looks like it's suiting him well. So, despite the early spin, avoiding any actual problematic damage to the car, which I mean, so far in this race, that's been the key to the success. As the LMP3 field, there's quite large gaps between all the positions right now. If he does finish here in 10th, this would definitely be one of his best finishes. Still a lot of the race to go, but we'll certainly be rooting for a positive result for him there. And maybe this will be his best fit for a car. Right now, the GT3 field has been plenty competitive all the way up down through the field. Not any super large gaps until we get to just the last couple, which I think were probably wrecks that happened earlier on. But interestingly, if we look at the overall times here, you can see, I know there's a little bit of a Christmas tree of colors there, but how many of those orange and blue drivers are there at the bottom? I mean, that's all the LMP3 drivers, and it's almost everybody who is nearly a lap down or a lap down. Oh, what a move by Travis Bell and Jeff McDonald into the West Horseshoe. Was not all that close through turn 1, but really made it up. Must have been on the exit of that corner. Let's take another look at that pass there by Travis Bell for P4. Yeah, Jeff McDonald saw that coming from a while away. I just don't think he had the pace into that corner there, and giving Bell plenty of room. A lot of time left to try to get that position back. He's actually quite close. May try to get it back into the bus stop here. Yeah, Paletti last season certainly made it a habit to finish a lot of the races. So was the only driver who did more than one race with 0 incidents. That will not happen today. Maybe struggling to even get the points at all. This is certainly a track where you can get those, get a couple cheap 1Xs in that bus stop there if you just take it a little bit too far to the left, a little bit too fast. Nick Terrell there coming into the pits. I don't know if anything happened for Nick Terrell to do that. That may be just enough on schedule. I think it's a little strange though to pit when you're ahead of all the GT3s. He's going to be coming out in the middle of that whole field. All I remember, I think someone talked about having some pretty bad percentages after a full stint, but I don't know if they were doing a full 100% fuel tank or the 80%, and just really where that cliff is. So, I think we'll get to see how that plays out across the season. let's check that move here. Mike Poole had just gotten a nose ahead coming into the corner. That's Poole on the outside, McMurray on the inside. McMurray reclaims that position. It's a strong defense there, and luckily Poole able to get back in line without losing that position to the driver behind him. Brad McCombs just got around Nicholas Paletti there. Let's check this pass as well. Oh, they are so close coming around the banking there. McCombs easily the fastest guy on the track right now, and is already almost entirely ahead of Paletti at this point in the corner. I think Paletti probably doesn't fight this too hard given the pace that Brad's had lately. Right now, our fastest lap for the GT3s is a 1:44.5. So I think what's a really interesting revelation about that is that the gap between fastest laps right now is much larger than the gap that we had between qualifying times, like the best qualifying times. So something about the race pace of the LMP3s must continue to make them faster, as actually we see one right there get past John Kelly. Let's see, that is Paul Skip. I thought maybe with the black. I didn't see all the gold detailing, so I wasn't sure if that was his John Player special. We have the gold wheels, I guess. Well, I think that, yeah, that lap would have been where he passed Nicholas Paletti there, so would have had some draft for sure as he was making his way around, but not a clear track at the very least. Nuremberger puts in a personal best at the front and has a 1.5 second gap back to McCloy. Oh, look at that exit by Richard Curry. William Alcala already getting eaten up. Fantastic exit. Oh, and the GT3 slow on the racing line there. I don't know what happened there. Who was that? That was Roger. I think Roger Shank had a slowdown, actually. Let's check Roger Shank's incident, because this just happened. Oh, that okay. It the back of his car didn't look so bad from the point of view of not Ocala, but his competitor there, and that's clearly why he was going slow. Should have probably gone high though. Ken Huber just lost a lot of positions there. Wasn't off track for that long. Oh, and that is Paul Skip colliding with him in the corner. Don't think Ken Huber really saw him there. Skip trying to take the inside, and that is a tow for him, it looks like. Yeah, he was in the top 5, I believe. Was running well regardless, and because he had lost a lot of positions very quickly because of how close that field is there in the GT3s from Berkowitz on up. Oh, unfortunately, incident here for Atticus Middleton. Let's see what happened. He lost position to both Brad McCombs and Nicholas Paletti. Okay, all right. Just nothing lost, but just some time there as he tries to find a good spot to rejoin the track. Yeah, so I'm honestly surprised he hasn't been able, well, Nary hasn't been able to get by yet, although just clearly the car just doesn't have the pace at the right spots, but it doesn't even really look like he's too hampered. I mean, he's still just 4.5 seconds off of Ryan Jeevan in front, so it's not like he's been losing that much time. The car behind is not for position. the LMP3 that's behind him. That is Christopher Craig there, who's at least one lap down. Yeah, I think it's just one lap down. Yeah, if there's anywhere that incidents happen in multi-class here, it's certainly into that West Horseshoe after you get through the dog leg. As Paul Skip is he out of the car? Paul Skip, I think he has retired the car just now as well. Tyler Langenberg here did not have the greatest of qualifying efforts there, but is up 7 spots from where he started. Not a lot of guys in front of him really kind of falling out either. Like, these have been positions made in earnest. Now this, he is under pressure from John Kelly behind, but it's been a good start to this season for Tyler Langenberg after a season off, and is looking pretty strong. And that Porsche certainly looks pretty strong as well, as a lot of those guys doing well are in it. Paul Skip out of this race was second place in the LMP2 field last season, only was 6 points back from Terry Kiger Jr. at the end. It came down to that final race, and Skip had 60 points on the next guy behind him. So pretty big news for sure to have the top returning driver for the prototype class out of this race, because of course Terry Kiger Jr., the champion, switching to his beloved Porsche here in the GT3 and doing quite well so far. Alex Pelican here wielding that Lamborghini with a field of Porsches here. So despite the Porsche, maybe, it's hard to tell if it is the better option or if it's just the more popular option since it's brand new. Yeah, has not really been able to extend it beyond a second after that initial slowdown from the traffic there in the bus stop. It's been pretty close ever since that happened, and it can't really seem to escape Vihil from behind. However, Vihil not having made a move yet, and that is actually the fastest lap of the race for Terry Kiger Jr. on that lap. Adrian Garcia Vihil's lap was faster, but it must have been disallowed in some way. As Alex Pelican, okay, well, something's happened with John Kelly. Did Kelly potentially go off track there and earn a slowdown? I think that he did. He just lost positions to both Pelican and Claybaugh as he just kind of pulled off the line. Kevin Burke was last guy to not be able to get a spot off of that slowdown from Kelly, trying to get that position now at full speed. We'll see if he's able to do it. He's been close to this whole group for most of this race, has kind of been sitting at the back, maybe potentially just biding his time and waiting for something to happen. Had a really good qualifying effort in third place, is in ninth, which is still would be a fantastic finishing position, but we know he has the pace to probably gain a couple positions here. Losing on the brakes there, Steve Cubey. Didn't often see that happen in the LMP2. An incident like that where just hitting the brakes too hard just kind of locks them all up, but happened there. But yeah, no, Zach Nuremberger did. If you did watch, I know we had a good number of viewers despite it not being fully live, unfortunately, but the Open Wheel for Amateurs debut race last week, and we'll have race 2 next week as we do alternating weeks. Terry Kiger Jr. there puts in another purple time. Zach Nuremberger won the second race in one of the most incredible finishes I think I've ever broadcast, and I would think that he hopes that if he wins today, it's by more than that, because it was, I think, a 10th and a half at the line due to Nicholas Paletti running out of fuel in the final corner. Maybe Zach's hoping for a little less drama in today's finish. Yeah, Brad continuing to be one of the fastest guys out there on the track, and has some ground to make up in front right now. 16 seconds to Paul Boyle, but anything can happen with incidents, and especially as pit stops start to happen. I mean, we've already had the field really mixed up, but the pit stops will further accentuate that. Willem Alcala, oh. Alcala here is trying to get that position from Richard Curry. These two guys have been close for a while, battling for these two positions, have traded positions a couple times as well. They have a pretty big gap in front of them to Christopher Newby. So as of right now, this is definitely a two-man fight for this 12th and 13th positions overall in the GT3 class. Oh, it still is, yeah. Yeah, Pelican has been slowly picking his way through this gaggle here, and he may be getting another one here. That was a late move on Langenberg. Langenberg had enough to defend, but yeah, Pelican has a lot of momentum. He was 0.3 faster than Langenberg on that lap. Yeah, certainly shown his strength in a number of cars and can really wheel anything around the track quite fast. And he's here in this this Porsche for this race in the GT3 class, bringing a lot of competition here. Of course, a couple long-time GT3 names that we have here that have always been real competitive. Guys like Jeff McDonald, guys like Tony Watson, but then a couple guys who've changed classes like Terry Carger Jr., and John Kelly. So definitely interesting to see how it works out for them as John Kelly is exiting the pits now. That must have been, that was Garcia. That was the position he got. Let's see if he's able to get another position here on Travis Bell. If nothing happens, we can see what happened to Garcia afterwards. Looks like he's going to stick behind him into turn one. So let's see what happens there. See, I imagine what is going on here. He must have just really messed up the bus stop and tried to take like an escape road, but the escape road, that's not an escape road. That ends. Oh, you see that. Yeah, at least on the mine, the front is not blown off, but you see the damage. You see the wheel sticking out, and he has the fast repair. Luckily, he's able to wheel it into the garage or the pits as opposed to having to tow it. But that's going to hurt. He was up there in the top positions for GT3, as that now has become a 12-second advantage for Terry Carger Jr. Not something he's been a stranger to, large leads in the past, but it will certainly be a strong thing to put in early as Zach Nuremberger, our race leader, coming into the pits. Right at the 40-minute mark in a pretty high fuel usage track. Let's see how long this pit stop is for him. Terry into the pits as well. So both of our leaders are coming into the pits on this lap. Similar fuel usage, it must, or at least fuel usage as opposed compared to the fuel tank size for both of these cars. both at 80%, and they both must use a similar amount, or at least have some sort of similarity, because both of our leaders, I mean, usually you try to stay out as long as you can early on, and I think Nürnberger would have been burning up a little bit more fuel than McCloy behind, as he was leading most of this race, with the exception of, since that incident, with the exception of a couple laps that McCloy had ahead of him. Yeah, I think certainly the pit stop that Nick Terrell had, that was around the 20-minute mark, so he's definitely going to be safe. I'm trying to remember at this point exactly when that crash happened in turn one for all of those. Well, I mean, Paul Skip's out of this race, but as far as Skip and Paletti and the McCombs, the guys involved in that, because I feel like that may have been right a little bit before I think that was like around 8.5 minutes. They may still be hung out a little. Well, with a minute and 45, they're close. They're very close. So that'll be something to watch as we get to the end, and they may have to do some fuel saving. I don't think Brad McCombs has been doing a lot of fuel saving with the pace that he's had, but you never know. Drivers can be fast and do both. Yeah, tried a very bold strategy of not pitting. Not many were able to do it. Pretty much just Nürnberger, Thompson, and here are Paletti. And Thompson, unfortunately, had an incident late, was spun out and was out of the running for the lead, and Paletti ran out on the final corner. So Nürnberger here doesn't need to do any fuel saving, luckily for this race, but still might help him just get a little bit more mileage out of the tank, a little bit less time in the pits. Tony Watson on the outside of Kevin Bergquist. He's already ahead. They're not even finished with the lap yet. Yeah, he's well ahead. So Bergquist must have had a bad exit on that bus stop there to really lose so much ground to Tony Watson there. Oh, and there comes John Kelly as well. Tony, a big user of the Porsche, big Porsche fan, and still continued to use it despite the unfortunate side effects of the previous couple seasons, the build in the previous couple seasons. But it looks like it's all fixed. The Porsche's all fixed now with this new version, and a lot of the guys up front are in that car. So you can see here, Porsche makes up all but one of the top 9 positions. Travis Bell, the only guy up there not in one. Well, let's see here, Zach Nürnberger. That's Don McCloy coming out of the pits, and Nürnberger has reclaimed the lead and then some. He's actually gained quite a bit in that pit cycle there. Must have had a really strong out lap, and we'll see if maybe McCloy struggles to keep up even, or if those tires just really do turn on instantly. Always one to practice the pit entries and exits, and it certainly can pay out. And if the 2 seconds is what really made the difference, I mean, without that, they would be side by side. It is a 2-second gap almost exactly right now. There's Paul Boyle passing Andrew Neri for P5. Now, that was okay. That was Andrew Neri coming out of the pits in that instance there. Brad McCombs just right behind Daniel Plotis right now as well. Brad obviously having made that stop earlier in the race. Plotis just made his stop, I believe, more on a normal schedule. Oh, that car flying straight up in the air in the background there. A bit of a graphical glitch, apparently. You'd hope so. Oh, that made... something happened to Atticus Middleton here. Oh! And I think that wheel's off the car, and that's gonna have to tow, unfortunately. Pretty heavy whack of that front right. Again, we don't know how fragile necessarily these cars are, but I can tell you they can't handle that. Brad McCombs just barely staying out of the back of Daniel Pelotas there as they come through the bus stop. It looks like he's kind of stalling out as far as overspeed here, struggling to get by. Came very close down the straight here, and still not ahead. He's going to have to be pretty brave on the brakes. He sends it pretty deep. This is proven to be a pretty difficult pass for McCombs to make as he locks up the front left just to make matters worse. Ooh, let's see here. Tony Watson made the move on Aaron Claybaugh here as well. This is coming on into the hairpin, or sorry, the bus stop. Claybaugh giving him plenty of room. Yeah, up 4 despite that. And like I said, and already, he's running in the top 5. He's close to Tyler Langenberg ahead now, and Langenberg's close to McDonald. The gap in front of that does extend quite a lot. As something happened to Travis Bell. As I said, Travis Bell's just lost. He's losing positions. He's just towed. So there's 2 incidents here. This first one, Travis Bell, sometimes he's off track for 8 seconds. Let's see what happens here. This must be what causes it all. Very similar to what we saw with Paul Boyle. It just wouldn't slow down. He had a little bit of a snap, and when he tried to catch it, he needed to turn into it, and he didn't have time anymore. But then... Oh, okay, so that was the second off track. He rejoined and then was off track and then decided to tow. So that's it until he gets that tow finished. See the plane flying in the background. That was one important patch note for this track, was that they slowed down the planes in the background because someone had run the math that they were landing at supersonic speeds, given the way that they were moving. So that's been patched, a little bit slower. Unfortunate for Travis Bell there, was one of our strongest competitors here in the field, and that just continues. Terry Calgary now has a 23-second advantage on his closest rival in Jeff McDonald. There's even 3 LMP3s for position between the two. Yeah, it is. Yeah, exactly. It is really hard to crash here and have it not be some catastrophe. There's not, other than going deep in turn 1 and spinning, every other one has some sort of wall that is definitely going to end your race. And we've already seen a couple incidents here in the West Horseshoe. We've seen it happen in the bus stop. Even happens in International Horseshoe sometimes. Yeah, McDonald qualified in 4th, moved his way up 2 spots to 2nd, and Langenberg there up 9 spots. And so is Claybaugh as well. Claybaugh did not qualify into A class for this race, which is a bit of a surprise. A driver who's typically not just strong in race pace, but also strong in qualifying pace, and was just out. I mean, he was in 14th, so he was more than a couple positions out of it, but has shown quite strong race pace so far today, and still has that capability of qualifying into A-class the next couple races. Tony Watson, oh no, we have an incident here for Tony. Into the bus stop. He's trying to get it. It just, once it was lost, it was lost. And has to put it in reverse and spin around. Luckily, no damage. That was Travis Bell there coming out of the pits, so he did not hang it up. He is continuing in this race. But he is coming out in 18th place, unfortunately. This is William Alcala trying to make a move on Roger Shank. Roger Shank on the left side, William Alcala on the Ferrari on the right, and he sends on the outside, but did not look stable on the brakes. Can't get it done. Right now, back to 19th in the race for the GT3s. 20th and on back out of this race. The top 13 in our LMP3s are still in this race, so still quite a lot of drivers out there on the field. And it's 32 cars on track currently. William Alcala trying to make the move, and he technically had that position for a split second as he was ahead of Roger coming down the straight, but couldn't quite do it on the brakes. Just didn't look like he had full control over the car. Luckily, no incidents ensued, but he's actually kind of losing that gap a little bit. But still one of the closest battles on the track, as well as John Kelly trying to get Kevin Berquist up there in the top 7. Brad McCombs, another purple lap as well. Brad is never somebody you'd be surprised to see pull a time out of his hat like that. Always has just the capability for the most just raw pace. And not, like I said, not surprising to see a purple lap coming from him. But, yeah, no one even remotely close right now. And that is William McCall trying it around the outside again. See if he's able to get it done this time. A little bit of a twitch on the steering. I think it got a little bit scared by Schengen behind, and yeah, not able to get it done again. Seems to be his best opportunity. Yeah, on the previous lap, Brad McCombs was about just a little bit less than 3 seconds faster than Terry Kiger Jr. there. So at least between these two guys, the class difference is not causing any headaches. I see coming in the pits anyway, so didn't matter. But here's Brad coming in with well, we have now 90-minute races as opposed to the 100 from last season. I think I forgot to clarify that there. But he's got 37 minutes to go. That is close. It seems like he'll make it, but that's going to be pretty close. Like the matter of safe by maybe a lap. Yeah, as we hit that window, I think now's probably a good time to take just a couple-minute break. We will be right back with you just a few minutes. And we are back. Saw a couple of moments of action there while we were gone. I saw John Kelly go a little bit deep into the braking zone of turn one and lose a position to Kevin Berquist just now. Trying to get that back was quite close. We also saw a couple other moves throughout the field, and Terry Kiger Jr. really struggling with some traffic in front of him from some GT3s he was coming up the lap as well.
We've also seen the headlights come on. 6 o'clock at night, sim time. It's going to start getting a little dark here. I think we'll probably see the track lights come on here soon, too.
So John Kelly trying to take the long way around Kevin Berquist. Look, he's going to do it. He has made that move already. So lost that position in turn one, regained it in turn one. We see a LMP3 was off track up there. It looks like, I think that was Daniel Plotis. Off track for just a couple seconds here in this 7-Eleven LMP3.
Paul Boyle had that lap one issue, and he's now up there in second place for LMP3 A class.
Yeah, second place, fourth overall. Started in fourth, so definitely a good recovery. Has had that incident, but has kept it clean outside of that. And if we look at that GT3 field, look at one driver who has made up 11 spots. Christopher Newby here. He barely got a lap time in qualifying. I think he only put in one timed lap, and it was near the bag. It was 19th place, which was a little bit surprising because we've seen him strong in some races before. And now look at that. He's up in 8th place. He's second for the GT3Bs as well.
Yeah, Christopher Newby, a past champion.
And Newby had quite a dominant championship victory in the GT3 AM. At the time would have been the name, GT AM class. And it was really, I mean, he won quite a lot of the races there. It was quite a performance for him. Did the LMP2 last season. I don't think he was able to attend every race either, so we didn't really get to see a full effort there. And despite not probably qualifying where he wanted to, possibly due to some issues in qualifying, he has really shown out in this race, and he has a couple positions right in front of him of Berquist and Kelly that he absolutely has in his grasp right now.
With 30 minutes left in the race, some of these guys...
Uh-oh. Was there contact between those two? Let's take a look at this. I don't think that there was, but there may have been some amount of... Oh, he was already losing it, and then so he was already losing control. There was nothing that Newby could do to avoid that. Smart move by Berquist to reverse onto the pavement to get going again.
Some of these guys closing in on a drive-through penalty. 20X will get you a drive-through penalty, and it looks like we've had one or two guys get there already, and there's some others getting close.
Wow. Yeah, this is not the track I would peg for really racking up the incident counts outside of just a couple spots, really. It's not quite known for that, but we have had a lot of loss of controls and collisions, and it starts to add up if you have a bit of a messy race. That was another position for Newby there. Obviously, he's now up to 12th, has 3 seconds ahead to John Kelly. Lost some time, of course, in that collision to Kelly in front. Looks like, luckily, no damage to the car.
The good news for those who have had some troubles tonight, it's a 7-race season, and they still get 2 drop weeks, so only your 5 best races count. You got plenty of season to go. High
percentage of drops, and it's really all about the highs that you have in the season. You can ignore a couple of some guys have to miss races. Obviously, we have James Kingsbury there. Real life stuff happens and pulls you out of it. Sometimes you just have a bad race, and you'll be able to get a couple of those scores dropped. However, the safety points do not drop. So even if you're having a bad race, it is valuable if you're able to stick it to the end and keep those incident points to a minimum. I barely recognized Shank's car there, as he doesn't have the classic monster kind of paint job that he has on most of his cars. He has it on his helmet still, of course, but hard to. I don't even know what a Roger Shank car is without that on there.
Alex Pelican up there in third place in his E4A debut and driving the Lambo, the highest non-Porsche.
Yeah, he is one of only 2 non-Porsches in the top 16 overall. William Alcala there in that Ferrari, we've seen a good amount, the only other driver there. So it's very much a testament to some skill there. On his debut, qualified just barely out of that AB. We may see him in the A class if he qualifies like that in the next couple races, because he was just right there on that cusp. Look at that. You can just see the LMP3 looking to make a move on the outside, and then it just dies out. Starting to actually lose ground as they go down the straight here. Let's see, that is the LMP3 of Nicholas Paletti there. So not a slow driver either.
Looks like Paul Boyle has made his pit stop.
Yep, Paul came in a couple laps ago and still just came out in 7th place. Will not have to stop again. So only places to gain from here, although I guess he does have McCombs just a second and a half behind him there.
Kevin Berquist on pit road now.
Yeah, right about now is when we'd start to probably see some like actual on-schedule pit stops happen. Berquist having not really had any incidents, that would be one that he would be planning to do. Especially because the one thing that the 10-minute little extra overhang does add is that the tires and the fuel are done at the same time. You do not have time to do 4 tires with 10 minutes of fuel. So I think that unless drivers are not planning on taking some tires, you would probably see them do this where they pit a little bit earlier than they have to, at least based on fuel. John Kelly and Aaron Claybaugh have been up at the top of this field for a lot of the race. Kelly up 1 spot from where he qualified. Claybaugh up 9. Kelly not pulling out yet. I think he knows it's a little bit too early to do that on the straight. Let's see if he's able to get a run here, though, down into turn 1. Claybaugh taking the high side. He's leaving the door open. I think he's even letting him by there. So letting Kelly go by. Didn't want to slow down either of them, I guess. I mean, they still have Tyler Langenberg right there in their sights, potentially working on both of them getting him there. You know, Vahil is in 3rd place right now. Does he still need to make another stop? Because he had, obviously, that big incident we saw. Vahil
15 laps ago. Yeah, I think he's going to have to pit. Yeah, because
so do the guys in front of him.
We should have 14 laps to go. So, yeah, Vahil's going to have to pit again.
The highest running, let's see if we can find the highest running driver who has made all their stops in that field of the GT3s.
Nick and Boyle both on pit road.
Kevin Berquist.
Zach Nurnberger pitted last lap.
Yeah, a lot of the LMP3s have made their second stop so far. Paletti, McCombs, and like I said with Nürburgring, but I think the highest running GT3 with 2 stops is Kevin Berquist there in 13th. So that's someone that we kind of want to keep an eye on and see how he races through the field as guys in front of him start to pit and kind of where that puts him out in the end. He pit earlier than he probably needed to, but that may be maybe for some tire strategy. Despite the battle with Kelly and Claybaugh, he has continually closed that gap up to Langenberg. Has not lost time to him on a single lap. Was 3.5 seconds 5 laps ago or so, and it's now down to just 4/10 as they come through that corner. Tony Watson and Alex Pelican both into the pits.
Well, that's what I thought. I had to go back and look at it. Paul Boyle pitting 2 laps in a row. He wrecked on his outlap.
Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I guess I didn't notice him down there in 11th. I don't know if I caught that incident or not. Maybe here. Let's see if this is yeah, that was him coming out of the pits there, and there was corner one. And struggling on the brakes, not for the first time for Paul Boyle there in the LMP3. It's a new car for everybody, so I mean, even the the most practicing guy out there just has not had that much time to put into this car to really get familiar with it. It doesn't seem to really drive just like a slow LMP2. It's its own car for sure.
Nick Terrell in 5th place took tires. He hit it a lap after Zach Nürnberger. Zach Nürnberger's pit stop was 8 seconds. Nick Terrell's was 23.
Wow. We do have to remember that Terrell's first stop was only 20 or 25 minutes into this race. But yeah, pitting at the same time, that is interesting. Potentially, they went opposite, where Nürnberger not wanting tires for the final stint, and Terrell may have kept on the same tires after that first pit stop early. But only time will tell when we get to the end here.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what Don McCloy and some of these other top P3s, how long their pit stops are.
This is a Claybaugh following John Kelly, and that's Travis Bell there, not on the same lap, though. Again, we saw that incident that had him tow, so he is in 18th. He's right there. That's pretty much where he would have been in this race for position if that incident probably hadn't happened, honestly. LMP3, lots of large gaps in that field. Obviously, still some pits to be done. Don McCloy leads the field currently. He's got a 25-second gap on Nürnberger behind. But almost every position is more than 10 seconds. 18 between Terrell and Jeevan, 17 back from that, 15 back from that, 19 back from that. So represented on a lot of different laps here. And this is Don McCloy dealing with some traffic. That's a Roger Shank on the inside in that black Porsche.
Yeah, I think
not even able to beat him on the brakes.
I think the big battle right now is Langenberg, Kelly, and Claybaugh.
Yeah, that front of the GT3 field has been close for a lot of this race, but we have had a couple guys fall off. Some have had some incidents, and some of them, like Kevin Berquist, have made that pit early. So we would probably expect Berquist to be involved in there. Claybaugh, something may have happened as he lost some time. Oh, and Roger Shank also.
Yeah, I think Shank towed.
Might be a normal stop. It just it seemed like he dropped quite quickly there. We did have an incident here for Keith Roycroft. Cut me through the S's. Facing totally backwards, unfortunately. It is very interesting to see how many guys are struggling to get the and then spins it again, trying to rejoin. Just how many guys are just struggling to get the car slowed down to get it around the corner. Shank around the pits. I think maybe that was just a normal stop.
Yeah, I think my timing and scoring was just messed up.
Christopher Newby has actually now joined this group here. Kelly, Claybaugh, Langenberg have been close, and Newby has been faster than those three, evidently, because he's joined the fight less than half a second to Claybaugh in front.
Yeah, Newby and Claybaugh, that's for the B-class win.
And not only would this be for the B-class win as Kelly peels into the pit lane, it's also for the most positions gained on the track as Claybaugh's up 9, Newby up 13, trying to get 14. That's a deep send. He's going to make it work as Bell kind of in the way. Claybaugh can't do anything to defend it. What a move by Chris Newby. Let us see that move again here. Newbie sending it down the inside. And has it already totally sealed off. That was a fantastic move. He seems to be flying right now in this race. 18 minutes to go, and still at least has that position as Tyler Langenberg in front that he could possibly get. He has to get through Travis Bell there. Travis Bell, obviously no pace slouch. He's there due to an incident, not due to being lapped just based on pace. Looks like he's going to get out of the way here, though, I think. Ooh, Andrew Neri is in third place, and something just had. He's losing time to Ryan Jeevan. Hopefully no damage from this here, but something big happens to his pace here at least. Okay, luckily got going. A little bit of a scare there early in the race, or late in the race, but able to keep that third position. He's second in the A class, third overall. Still needs to make that pit, but so does Don McCloy. So as Engineer just lost another, oh no, he's just lost some more spots. He was off track for 11 seconds due to this incident.
I think those tires might be starting to go.
Yeah, it looked like a pretty standard move around the GT3 of Tony Watson there, and it just did not stick to the corner.
17 laps into this run, and we don't know if he took tires or not. Definitely having some handling issues.
Yeah, we can see here at least on pit time that 35 seconds, so he definitely would have taken tires. That's interesting. Jack Nuremberger, the only person really to just take fuel here, and if that was the result of the tires, I wonder how bad, if he's really hurting right now or not.
Last lap, Zach was 0.2 quicker than McCloy.
Yeah, in the low 43s, not a lot of guys competing with that. Brad McCombs there at a 42.5, Paul Will 42.7, but this may be a strong strategy for Nuremberger.
Looks like Neary to pit road.
Yeah, Shirley has a meatball from that seemed like a pretty hefty collision. We'll see how many spots he loses when he comes out. He's lost to Jeevan and Terrell here, but there are large gaps between the drivers, so he may get away with maybe just losing one more to McCombs. He's got 15 seconds to Paletti behind now.
That's a driver we haven't talked about much tonight. Ryan Jeevan sitting there third overall, second in the B class. I believe he ran GT3 last season.
Yeah, he did. He was in the GT3. He was a GT3B. Finished in 5th overall for the B class drivers at 210 points, and that was with missing 3 races. So 2 of those got dropped, but one of them was a 0 to his overall count. So pretty good results for him last season in that B class for GT3. But this would absolutely top anything from last season if he's able to finish here on the podium. Certainly looking strong so far. He's kept it quite clean. He's up 8 with Nick Terrell 13 seconds behind him, up 10.
With Boyle's issue and Neary's issue, Brad McCombs now sits in 2nd place. Despite being a lap down early.
Yeah, despite being a lap down early and having 3 of those B-class guys in front of him. It's just been such a wild race for the LMP3s. I mean, I think we didn't really quite even know who to expect to do well coming into the race, but even once we saw the qualifying results, it's been all mixed up since then as well. Langenberg's had a...
Brad in 2nd and Paletti up to 4th.
Brad McCombs not able to compete a full season last season in the LMP2, although I actually ran a couple races in both classes. I might be getting that wrong, but wasn't able to run a full season. Is planning, as this Christopher Newby threw on Tyler Langenberg, so in the B class, up 15 spots to 4th overall, and it looks like he's probably going to sail away from Langenberg at this pace right now. But Brad McCombs intending on competing for a full season here, despite some early heartache to this race. I think 5th place or potentially better. We'll see what happens here at the end with 13 minutes to go. But 5th place will certainly be a great consolation for really sticking it out after that.
Look at that timing and scoring. Half of the top 12 are 20 laps or more into a fuel run, so they should all be coming down pit road in the next 2 laps.
Yeah, it's got to be happening quick, and surely no time for anything more than 1 tire or 2 tires, because with this little left in the race, that's going to be just a minor splash and dash.
Yeah, 7 of the top 11 drivers still need to pit.
It's a bit of shading from the sunset here in the sim, as we got 12 minutes still to go in the race. Like I said, all the lights are on for him. Don't think the track lights are on yet.
Yeah, I feel like the clouds kind of moved out of the way, and now it's actually brighter than it was 30 minutes ago.
So Jeff McDonald there is one of the first drivers at the front of the GT3 field to take that pit here late in the race. He was in 2nd place, immediately lost the position to Garcia, of course, as he came into the pits. Doesn't look like he's taking any tires, as you might expect. Oh, no, no, he was not lifted up. He was just, I think, stopped.
Such a fast pit entry here. You got to be careful not to get a slowdown. Speeding penalty.
Yeah, and you do actually kind of have to lift right there in that section, that left turn there that's still in the pit lane. You see there, as far as the drivers who have taken that, the colors are all over the place there, but for the GT3, what we're looking at is red and green. Calgar is not on a 44-lap stint. His blinking, unfortunately, it's just when he loses a little bit of connection, it messes with the graphics here, but Vahil not taking his 2nd, nor has Newby. Langenberg, Claylaw, and McDonald just took his here. So we'll keep an eye out for all those other guys to do that, as McDonald does come out in 6th place. So that's looking pretty good. No one in front of him has made those 2 stops.
Yeah, McDonald a 7-second stop. Neary with a 6-second stop. We saw Zach Nurnberger 9 laps ago. He had an 8-second stop. So Harry is next in the chute. He's on lap 23. Yeah, Garcia heading to pit road.
We had 2 22-lap stints. This one, actually, the second one may have been 23 laps here, but certainly what you would expect. We're just now under 10 minutes to go in this race. It's only going to be another 6 or 7 laps for these guys. Provisionally, as he hasn't come into the pits a second time yet, Chris Newby is up 17 spots into 2nd place after starting in 19th.
Yeah, Newby on lap 23, running his fastest laps of the race right now, but he is going to have to pit.
Not quite the amount of time where you could do some major fuel saving and make it on one. It's definitely a mandatory too, but that it's still fuel saving does help you spend less time in the pits if you're able to do it while still being fast, which if you get the right draft here can be something that you do.
Garcia's pit stop was kind of slow, 11 seconds for him. Garcia 4 seconds slower than McDonald. So it looks like
you have to wonder what that's from.
Back.
Yeah, McDonald is 5.6 seconds ahead of Vahil now, and maybe Vahil took 1 tire. That's a strange amount of extra time. I mean, 4 seconds. I can't imagine there's that much difference in like how much fuel they saved, but it's always possible. I've always ended up getting surprised by how good some of these guys can do at that fuel conservation and fuel strategy in these races. Terry Cowger is on the pit exit now as he came into the pit, so that was a short stop, clearly, as Newbie comes in as well.
Yeah, it looks like 9 seconds for Terry. Still waiting for Don McCloy and Ryan Jeevan to head down pit road. See where Nick Terrell will cycle through.
I think McCloy has led the predominance of this latter half of the race, as him and Nürnberger have been on different fuel strategies here. So haven't been racing each other close on track, but they're well aware of the situation, and that adds some urgency. And sometimes it's easier to race a car when you can see it versus virtually through a pit stop.
When Jeevan pits, that should move Terrell up to third. And I think Terrell started last. He skipped qualifying.
Yeah, didn't put a lap time in. I don't know if that was due to a mistake or due to choice, but certainly is going to be making some big gains from where he started, and wouldn't be the only guy who has kind of rectified at least a poor or non-existent qualifying performance, as we have a lot of guys throughout this field who have made up a lot of spots. It's Alex Pelican really struggling with the LMP3, basically his pace. Hopefully avoids it. That was Keith Roycroft there, I think.
Glad to see Keith back on the track tonight, but Daytona not treating him well.
Yeah, yes. So this orange and green LMP3 was Keith Roycroft, and just him and GT3s really trading spots a lot in this race. As he didn't seem to have the concrete pace over the car really anywhere on the track. And Claybaugh's closed up a huge gap to Jeff McDonald now. It's half a second between the two. That was a big lift that Claybaugh just took right there, though, into turn one. And I don't know if he's maybe trying to do a little bit of fuel saving or if it's just he's worried about the traffic there at Travis Bell.
I think McCloy must be coming to pit road because ZN just picked up a hole. Well, maybe not.
He's still keeping it out on track there, Tom McCloy.
I'm interested to see how that shakes out. If McCloy has built up a big enough lead where he can take a splash and go and still come out in front of ZN, it's going to be close. Just because based on if Don McCloy pits with 4 minutes to go, it should be like a 3-second stop. It should be really quick.
Yeah, let's see the pit lane time for guys who didn't take any fuel. Let's see, Adrian Fedorowski had a pretty short one, and that was 35.5 seconds. I think even with just the slightest of splash and dashes, I'm not sure if Don McCloy is able to make up that difference from when he decided to take tires and Nürnberger didn't. I mean, he certainly made up a lot of that gap, but I mean, just doing like the quick, it seems like it'll actually be maybe like 6 or 7 seconds. We'll see as he comes into the pits right now.
Ryan Jeevan has pushed it 25 laps. It looks like the longest fuel stint, I believe, out of anybody tonight.
Yeah, it's impressively done. Running the third will take a second here as Don McCloy comes into the pits before he comes in to make it. Well, he actually may on this lap, so we'll keep an eye out on that. So right now, Nürnberger here, and he is already crossing the. Yeah, he's actually gonna be quite ahead of Don McCloy, I think.
Yeah, despite pitting 12 laps later, McCloy's pit stop was only 2 seconds faster than ZN's.
And that is Don McCloy. He's passing there. McCloy's still trying to get up to speed in that pit lane. I think the no tires call, while risky, if he's able to finish it out clean here, may be the answer. It's only 2.2 seconds between the two, though. Not nearly as much as I had run in my head.
I'd have to say ZN must have had an amazing pit entrance.
Brian Jeevan is coming into the pits. Long fuel stint there. has to come to an end eventually. So Nick Terrell, having done his fuel strategy, is there in third, and that's where he's going to finish. Brad McCombs also passes Ryan Jeevan in the pits. So Brad likely to finish there in fourth as well, despite the crash early on. And Andrew Neri just gets ahead of Ryan Jeevan as well. So still a wonderful race for Ryan Jeevan. Slips back to sixth place there. That's third for the B-class drivers and sixth overall.
Yeah, not bad. You have to wonder how much time he lost just by... He had to have been saving fuel to run 26 laps when everybody else was pitting at 24.
We'll be just shy of the white flag as Nürnberger crosses the line here with just a little bit over 2 minutes remaining. So should be 2 to go from here. And he has actually extended slightly behind Don McCloy there by a couple tenths over this lap, at least once Don McCloy got to speed. Although that corner, he was much slower than McCloy. Actually lost 4 tenths just through there.
Paletti has actually caught Jeevan and passed him.
Yep. Jeevan losing that spot to Paletti. Let's see this move that he made. Oh, Jeevan went off track. That is why. So right before that, Ryan Jeevan had been off track for 6 seconds, and that allowed Paletti to make up that ground and then had that momentum. Nürnberger coming up to some traffic, slowing him down a little bit here. That's Aaron Claybon, the GT3. 1.8 seconds back to Don McCloy now. That's the view from McCloy's car. Still quite a bit out of touch, considering that we're coming up to the white flag now.
Yeah, any close battles. It looks like all the GT3 cars are 6 seconds apart.
I think that Richard Curry is actually looking to make a move here back in the GT3 field on Mike Poole. Was catching up a lot down the straight, but...
Oh, Tyler Langenberg out of gas.
Oh, no.
He tried to push it. He was in, second? He was in second place.
He was in
Terry.
second, yeah.
Yep, he's out of gas.
Maybe he watched Zach Nürnberger's race from last week, unable to replicate that performance, but this will be a very fast pit. He'll be in, and he's out.
Yeah.
So, Nürnberger has started the white flag lap, though, has 1.4 seconds behind. That's a pretty healthy gap. I know it's not a lot, but it does seem like as long as he just kind of finishes it out here clean, he'll be all right. Down to 1 second now, though. Oh, then Don McCloy loses it while he's pushing. He shouldn't lose another spot. He's got 30 seconds behind the Nick Terrell, but that is going to ease Zach Nürnberger's fears there as he makes his way around some lap traffic. Unfortunate late incident for McCloy to kind of cease his chance at taking that win.
Track lights are on. Will we see some fireworks?
I hope we do. It would be certainly well-deserved for Zach Nürnberger here, as this would, like I said, be back-to-back wins, 2 different series. Winning the sprint race of Eau-Forêt a week ago, winning Eau-Forêt tonight. What a couple of weeks this would be for him, and some major momentum for both seasons.
And doing them both as a B class, beating all the A class drivers.
Yeah. He was just outside of the A class for this race. He was literally the first man out, so still may see him in A class in either one of these series in the next couple of races, but as it stands, he is the B class winner for this race. He's already flashing the lights. He's going to come ahead. He's going to win by a good 6 or 7 seconds with another 30 seconds to the next guy behind him. Nailed the strategy, kept it clean, avoided that incident early, and that has earned him the win today. As Zach Nürnberger crosses the line as our winner here at Daytona. First race for the LMP3s.
Oh no, Richard Curry collects Mike Poole on the last lap.
Oh, they were really battling for that spot. Currently, Terry Kyrie Jr. well away from the finish line, so we still have a lot of guys to finish here. Newbie finishes in 4th place, will be our winner there for the B class in the GT3s, up 15 spots from his starting position to 19th. And the top 3 GT3s were on a different lap. Terry with no threat from behind, 20 seconds behind to Jeff McDonald, just trying to take it to the end of this race, going through the bus stop as he finishes his final lap here. Brad McCombs comes across the line in 4th place, was catching up to Nick Terrell. If this had been a 100-minute race, may have actually given him a chance there. Andrew Neri crossing the line right now in 5th as well. And Paletti recovers to 6th after starting in 1st place. That is Terry Carter Jr. making his way around some traffic across the finish line. He is our GT3A winner for tonight. Wonderful race for him. Definitely showed the pace, never made a foot wrong, and he is a heavy competitor for these GT3 regulars that we see week in, week out. Jeff McDonald now coming across the line as well here in 2nd place, and 3 seconds behind him, Adrian Garcia Vigil will round out the podium for the GT3 class. All 3 A-class drivers there in those top 3 positions. That was a great race, especially for those LMP3 drivers. Really interesting to see some results I don't think we totally expected.
Yeah, the field really got shaken up tonight. We saw a lot of guys qualify good and have some misfortune, and the B-class drivers really got a chance to shine.
All right, if we have some drivers, we don't have any drivers in the booth yet, so we'll wait for a couple minutes here as we wait to speak to our 4 winners for the classes today. Obviously, winning both for the winners, Zach Nurnberger, first for the B class, and overall drivers, Don McCloy winning for those. Well, actually, let's go over the results here. Might just got some time to do that. Our LMP3 results here. Race winner and B class winner, shockingly, Zach Nurnberger there in 1st place with 6 seconds ahead of Don McCloy in 2nd. Don McCloy winning the A class. Nick Terrell, after not qualifying, finishes in 3rd. Brad McCombs in 4th, and Andrew Neri round out the top 5. Following them, Nicholas Paletti, Ryan Jeevan, Daniel Plotis, Christopher Craig, Paul Boyle, Adrian Fedorowski, Keith Roycroft, Atticus Milton, Paul Skip, and Steve Cube. And then looking at our GT3 results, race winner, no strangers to the top step, Terry Carter Jr., 20 seconds ahead of Jeff McDonald in 2nd, and Adrian Garcia Vigil rounding out the podium in 3rd place. Following them is Christopher Newby, who gained 15 positions and finished as the top B-class driver, just ahead of John Kelly. Following those guys, Tyler Langenberg, Alex Pelican, Kevin Berquist, Aaron Claybaugh, William McCalla, Tony Watson, Roger Shank, Mike Poole, Richard Curry, Avi Vishvasham, Travis Bell, Mark Whitley, Daniel Barnett, John Crane, Ken Huber, and Andrew McMurray, Dan Real, and James Kingsbury, which I think it should also be mentioned that the only 3 of those GT3s able to stay on one lap, on the same lap there. So definitely set themselves apart. Wonderful racing by everybody there. And I don't think we saw any too effectual drive-throughs in that race from guys up top, but probably came pretty close.
Yeah, I didn't notice anybody who was in contention that got a drive-through penalty.
All right, so if we get to speaking to some of our winners, we do have a couple of we have both of our overall race winners there in Nurnberger and Terry. If you want to pull one of them in, ask them about their race today.
Yeah. Terry Calder Jr., you got a copy?
I got you.
So the return of the Porsche, the return of Terry to GT3, and Terry back in victory lane. Are you padding stats? What's going on out there?
No, I just not really a fan of the way the P3 drives or anything. So, and you know me, I like being in the Porsche. So I figured I'd go back and join the GT3 guys.
It wasn't as much of a join. You know, you won by 20 seconds there. You had a little bit of pressure earlier on the race. Really, Fahil, the only guy able to stick with you there. What was your experience though with traffic? Because I mean, obviously you had traffic maybe once you come around to lap a couple of GT3s, but you were dealing with LMP3 traffic as well. What was your experience with that?
It was interesting. I didn't know what was going on in front of me, other than I saw a lot of smoke from tire lockups and cars spinning the first few laps, and then it kind of settled down by the time I caught the tail end of the guys that hadn't spun off or anything. And the GT3s, once they get close in the draft, just blow by them, and then they don't seem to have the speed to easily get by. So I think once I got by those two, they just kind of hung out. And the GT3 traffic is the same as it's always been. I feel like it's pick your spots to get by them and wait for a little mistake. Try not to get held up too much if possible.
Now, what about the LMP3 drivers who were fast enough to actually catch you and pass you? I think we saw Brad McCombs. He was by far the fastest P3 driver tonight. We saw him get by you. How was that?
That wasn't too bad. The biggest, the most speed difference was going through the bus stop. It seemed like the infield, the cars were about the same, but they could carry a lot more speed through the bus stop. So like with Brad, and I think Paul Boyle caught me, as we were going in, and they kept the gap right so they could get on the power like normal. And by the time we got out of the bus stop, they were by me. And I just kind of hung back trying to save a little fuel in their draft.
Well, it's a fantastic win for you to add on to your pile of wins that you've already got. Looking like a strong start to the season, and it was a strong showing by a lot of the GT3 field as well, a little bit less chaotic than the results we got from the LMP3. So, I mean, it's a first step to it, but how do you think that this whole season's going to go? And I think it's probably an obvious answer to the second one. Are you going to rock the Porsche for probably the whole season here?
Oh, absolutely. You know me, I'll be in the Porsche the entire season. Doesn't matter to me, really. I'll figure it out if I can. But yeah, qualifying was super tight, and the start of the race, up until the first pit stop with Garcia, I thought him and I were going to battle right down to the end until I saw whatever happened with him in the bus stop. But yeah, as far as the season goes, I don't know. I don't want to championship myself out. So I think there's going to be like a select few tracks that I push hard at, and other tracks that I'll just kind of take it easy and just race with guys and have fun.
Well, regardless, congratulations on your win tonight, and then a great start to this season.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
You too.
All right, if you want to bring in, see, we got our other winner, Zach Nurnberger, we can speak to, our B class and overall winner.
Zach Nuremberger makes it 2 wins in a row from B class, beating all those A class drivers. How'd you do it?
I don't know. I was just sitting there, bump drafting with Don, just trying to, just kind of wait our way through. Saw a bunch of smoke, and everyone decided to pile up. Neary had some issues. I was really just trying to be careful, keep the tires underneath me, just not spin it, and it paid off.
I mean, sure, but I think there's more to it than that. Of course, I mean, you just spoke of, you and Don McCloy. You're doing some bump drafting. You were right next to each other before you decided to, go for that pit strategy where you didn't take tires. And what influenced that decision there when it seemed like almost everybody else in the field took tires except for you and I think maybe one other driver.
Took tires at the first stop. The second stop, I only needed 3.5 gallons. I put in like 4.4, and it's like 15 gallons to get a free tire set. Even that first stint, they're only down to like 85%, which I'm really surprised with not a lot of downforce. I think they'd scrub them off a little bit, but yeah, it was more of a forest strategy. I just didn't have the time in the pit box to take those, so just tried to pit out of GT3 traffic, and stuck myself back in it, but luckily the same happened for Don.
Your pit stop, your second one, anyways. It seemed like you gained a couple seconds on everybody else. Did you have a very good pit entry?
Um, yeah, I'm looking at it. I mean, I got a pretty solid pit entry. I think too, just getting the field numbers dialed in. I know, just talking to a few people after the race, a lot of them were putting in extra. We even saw Langenberg run out too. So, yeah, I'm not really 100% sure, but yeah, I mean, I had a pretty decent pit entry and just got the field numbers right.
Well, congratulations on a race win here. Opening the season, obviously you still may make your way into A class in the next couple races, but a win as a B class driver is a rarity. I think we've only seen it one other time. I think Travis Bell did it once a couple seasons ago. So congratulations on that feat there, one of a few. What are you looking forward to as far as the rest of the season, taking this these points through?
Yeah, it'll just be interesting to see how these shakes out. I mean, Brad McCombs running a 41.5, Nick Terrell coming through the field. I mean, we know how fast Pletty and Neary is, and a lot of these guys. So, yeah, I think we're just gonna have a lot of good battles, and learn a new car. Um, you know, different class setup with traffic and strategy wise stuff like that. So, just looking forward to the whole new shakeup, especially after taking off last season, and we're gonna have a lot of good battles and some great guys too.
Well, congratulations again on the win. Hope we see you again soon up here in the booth. Maybe even as a class driver next time with another win under your belt. So you have a great night, and congratulations on that win today.
Yep. Thanks for everything, guys.
And that's all the drivers we have there in the waiting room. I think our B class winners not aware that they won today. Obviously, with the first race, a little bit difficult for the drivers to figure out which class they're in. So hopefully, we'll get to hear from the B class guys next race. Not next week though. Next week, again with this alternating schedule, we're back to O4A, which will be at the Red Bull Ring, and E4A will be back in 2 weeks at Sebring. So, anything you wanted to part with there, Mark?
No, great race, great broadcast. I'm looking forward to seeing how these new LMP3s handle the bumps at Sebring. That'll be interesting. And obviously, we do have Don McCloy down there.
Oh, he just joined. Yes, let's speak to him.
Don McCloy, can you hear us?
Yes, sir.
Hey, great race, great win, A-class winner, second overall with Zach Nurnberger. It looked like you guys had a great battle most of the night. How was it out there in the P3 at Daytona?
It was challenging to say the least. Me and Chris Craig did a test session a couple days ago, and we were going back and forth on whether or not to stick with this car or not. We decided like an hour before to stick with it, and yeah, I still don't feel comfortable in it, but yeah, it was a fun race.
You obviously that incident that took out I think at least 3 of the LMP3s happened right in front of you. What was your view of that? How did you not get collected in there in that turn 1 incident?
Yeah, they seemed to be going pretty hard there in the beginning. So it was definitely me and Zach just kind of hanging back and just leaving just enough of a gap to try to squeeze by if something happened, and eventually it did. Yeah, so kind of just counting on that, really, honestly.
The other thing I also wanted to ask, just because with our first race here with the LMP3s, now the first time really doing a full race length distance, what was your experience with the tires on these things? Was it how did it compare to the LMP2s or the GT3s that you've had before over this kind of amount of time?
Yeah, there was no fall off. So I mean, I think I set my fastest lap on 51, which was that was after my first pit stop. So yeah, there wasn't really any degradation or any loss of speed or anything. Maybe they're too light to wear the tires out. I don't know. But yeah, there's maybe there's not a lot of tire management that's going to need to be done, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think we're going to be running a smaller fuel tank for the rest of the season too. So probably going to be shorter pit stops, and so you guys probably aren't going to want to take tires anyways.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful race tonight. Definitely kept it competitive to the end, and ended up getting the win for the A class. So congratulations on that win. Looking forward to maybe hearing from you again in the future as you continue this momentum.
All right. Thanks, guys. Thanks for all you do.
Have a good night, Don. Thanks.
You too.
All right. That was all the drivers that we got to speak to today. So wonderful race that we had. Again, if you want to see us for open wheel for amateurs running the F3 cars, we'll be here next week at Red Bull Ring. And next week after that, we will have E4A returning at Sebring. So look forward to seeing you all there. Good night, everyone.